The movie begins in the United States, specifically during the presidential election period. A presidential candidate named Ross is shown preparing to present his campaign to the people, aiming to convince them to vote for him. He appears very tense and anxious, as it is his first time running for president. While preparing, he talks to his assistant and asks if his daughter, Betty, has contacted him. She replies that Betty hasn't reached out for a long time and no one knows where she is. We also learn that when Ross served in the military, he hated superheroes and used to pursue them, believing they were a threat and harmed people, especially the superhero Hulk, because his daughter, Betty, loved Hulk. When she found out that her father had tried to kill him, she decided to stay away from him and has not spoken to him since. During his campaign, Ross tries to prove to the public that he has changed and now supports superheroes. He even claims that his favorite hero is Captain America. He promises the people that if he wins the election, he will assign Captain America to hunt down gangs and criminals. 6 months later, Ross wins the election and becomes President of the United States. Captain America is tasked with capturing a dangerous gang that had stolen chemical materials from a Japanese ship. Captain America travels to Mexico, and upon arriving at the gang's hideout, he defeats them and starts searching for the stolen materials. Suddenly, he hears cries for help coming from a nearby church. He asks his assistant, Joaquin, to search for the chemicals while he heads to the church to save the people. On his way to the main hall of the church, he faces a group of gang members and easily defeats them. When he reaches the hall, he sees the gang leader, Said, and tries to hit him with his shield, but misses. Suddenly, Said's assistant appears and attacks Captain America, allowing him to escape. Captain America fights the assistant and manages to defeat him after a tough battle. When the police arrive, they arrest the assistant. Meanwhile, Joaquin chases members of the gang carrying the chemical bag, retrieves it, and returns to Captain America, asking him to train him to become a superhero like him. Captain America agrees and promises to introduce him to his trainer, Bradley, who will handle his training. Bradley turns out to be an elderly man but possesses immense strength and incredible fighting skills, easily lifting heavy weights. Joaquin begins training with him, but Captain America soon receives a call from a White House employee inviting him and Joaquin to attend a party hosted by President Ross. Captain America agrees, on the condition that he brings Bradley along. He works on convincing Bradley to attend, despite his initial refusal due to his hatred of Ross, who had caused him problems in the past. Captain America tells him that Ross has changed and now supports superheroes, and that he is the one assigning him official missions now. Bradley eventually agrees to come, especially since he hadn't left his home in many years. That evening, the three of them go to the White House. Bradley feels nervous since he hasn't been out for a long time. Upon entering the palace, a group photo is taken of them. The president's assistant, Tyler, approaches Captain America and asks him to accompany her to meet the president, suggesting that they have an old friendship. Meanwhile, Joaquin sends the group photo to Bradley, and when he receives it, Bradley's phone glows strangely, surprising him. Captain America reaches the president's office, where Ross warmly welcomes him and thanks him for his efforts in Mexico. He then asks him to assemble the Avengers to carry out missions against criminal gangs. Captain America is surprised by the request, especially since Ross had previously declared war on the Avengers. Nevertheless, he tells him he will consider it. Everyone then moves to the party, and President Ross addresses the attendees, explaining that celestial bodies have recently appeared in the Indian Ocean. Many countries, especially Japan, conducted research on these objects and discovered a rare material called adamantine, which is extremely strong, even stronger than the materials used to make superhero suits. He explains that Said's gang had stolen this material from the Japanese ship heading to America, but thanks to Captain America and Joaquin, it was recovered. Suddenly, a very faint music starts playing, and Bradley begins acting as if under the influence of something strange. He assaults one of the president's guards, takes his weapon, and fires at Ross, shattering the protective glass in front of him and knocking him to the ground. At the same time, 4 other attackers appear and open fire on Ross, intending to kill him. Sophie, the head of security, rushes to save President Ross and quickly gets him out of the area before he can be killed. Meanwhile, Bradley, frightened, flees to the garden, where Captain America finds him and talks to him, noticing his confusion and memory loss about what just happened. Captain America tries to calm him down and urges him to surrender to the police so that he can help him and get him out of the trouble he's in. Bradley agrees, as he truly doesn't remember anything. When the police arrive, they arrest him. Later, Captain America meets with President Ross and asks him to release Bradley, explaining that Bradley was not conscious during the incident and that it seems someone was controlling him using advanced technology or a supernatural force. He explains that Bradley had been imprisoned for 30 years, which caused severe psychological trauma, making him fear the streets and hate prisons. Therefore, it's unlikely he would intentionally commit a crime that could send him back to jail. Ross replies that he cannot release Bradley because his pictures have already been published in all the newspapers and magazines, and he is now publicly known as the man who attempted to assassinate the President of the United States. This would negatively affect public trust and make people accuse Ross of recruiting criminals. Sophie, the head of security, intervenes, saying she will personally handle the investigation into Bradley's case. If his innocence is proven, she promises to get him out of jail. However, she also states that she is confident he is guilty and that he colluded with the other 4 attackers to attempt to assassinate the president. Captain America leaves very angry and visits Bradley in prison the next day. During their conversation, he becomes convinced that Bradley truly doesn't remember anything. Bradley breaks down in tears, deeply regretting leaving his home, and tells Captain America that the last thing he remembers is his phone glowing in a strange way. After Captain America leaves, Sophie, watching from the surveillance room, has heard their entire conversation and decides to review the security camera footage from the night of the party. Meanwhile, Captain America calls Joaquin and asks him to hack into the White House surveillance cameras to retrieve accurate footage of what happened during the party. Joaquin successfully hacks the cameras and discovers that both Bradley and the 4 criminals who shot at the president had phones that were glowing in a strange way at the time of the attack. Immediately after the call ends, Ced, the gang leader, appears and starts shooting at Captain America while he's inside his car, then throws a grenade at him in an attempt to kill him. However, Captain America survives, and a fight breaks out between them. Ced eventually stabs Captain America with a knife, causing him to lose consciousness but not killing him. At that moment, Captain America's phone rings. When he answers, he hears a mysterious voice telling him that he is the mastermind behind everything that happened since the theft of the chemical materials, and threatening to hunt him down and kill him, along with all the other superheroes. At the same time, back in prison, Sophie goes to interrogate Bradley to learn more details about what happened. As she's on her way, she sees an investigator named Biome killing the other 4 criminals who had attacked the president. Biome then harms himself, and through his transmitter device, Sophie hears a faint song playing, the same song that was playing during the attack on the president. At that point, Sophie decides to move Bradley to a solitary confinement cell for his protection. Meanwhile, President Ross is on his way to Japan. He calls a camp director named Seiko and asks him about a prisoner named Small. Suddenly, he hears gunfire, and Small answers the call himself. Small tells Ross that his time for revenge has come. Meanwhile, Captain America arrives at Seiko's camp and manages to sneak inside until he reaches a strange laboratory. There, he discovers that the lab had been used for dangerous experiments on superheroes. He sees photos of many individuals, including Bradley and the criminals who had shot at the president. Suddenly, Small appears in front of him, looking terrifying. Small tells Captain America that he is behind everything that happened because Ross had imprisoned him in the camp for 16 years and conducted many experiments on him. Over time, Small managed to develop a new method of hypnotism using sound and light, the same method he used to control Bradley and the other criminals who attacked the president. Captain America becomes furious and attacks Small, but Small uses a weapon that emits low-frequency sound waves, immobilizing Captain America. Then a group of soldiers, who have been hypnotized by Small, appear behind him. Small orders them to attack and kill Captain America before fleeing. Captain America manages to defend himself and fights them off with the help of Joaquin. After escaping the lab, they encounter another group of soldiers accompanied by Sophie. Sophie orders the soldiers not to kill Captain America, but she is shocked to find that they don't respond to her commands because they are under Small's hypnotic control. Sophie fights back, taking them down one by one, showcasing her strength and exceptional skills. After the battle ends, Sophie speaks with Captain America and Joaquin, informing them that she has investigated Bradley's case and confirmed his innocence. She is certain that Small is responsible for everything happening, but lacks the evidence to prove it. Her suspicions were confirmed when she saw Investigator Biome unconscious while killing the imprisoned criminals. While they are talking, a group of army soldiers arrive and arrest Captain America and Joaquin, informing Sophie that President Ross had ordered it. Sophie decides to call Ross to understand why he gave such an order. However, suddenly, Small's special song is broadcast over the soldiers' radios, allowing him to control them through hypnosis. Captain America and Joaquin are forced to flee while the soldiers point their weapons at them, ready to kill. Captain America uses his shield to protect them, and the three escape using Sophie's car. They head to an army camp, where Captain America asks the camp commander for permission to use his laptop. The commander agrees, and Joaquin uses the computer to play Small's song to test its effect. When nothing happens, everyone breathes a sigh of relief. They then decide to meet President Ross to inform him of everything that has happened. The camp commander tells them that Ross is currently aboard a battleship in the Indian Ocean, so Captain America, Joaquin, and Sophie quickly set out toward it, wearing their special suits. Along the way, they spot a fleet of Japanese ships following Ross's vessel, all heading toward a mysterious celestial body. Shortly after, Captain America meets President Ross and informs him about all the information they've gathered about Small. Ross reveals that Small had been imprisoned for many years due to his extraordinary intelligence and had been working on a cure for Ross's weak heart. When Small succeeded, Ross had promised to release him, but he couldn't fulfill his promise because he still needed ongoing treatment. This betrayal enraged Small and drove him to seek revenge. During their conversation, two American planes begin launching missiles at the Japanese fleet, prompting Captain America and Joaquin to rush out and prevent the imminent war. The Japanese planes respond by firing missiles at the American planes. Captain America and Joaquin work together to destroy the missiles and try to prevent an all-out war. When Captain America sees a missile heading toward the American ship, he races after it to try and destroy it. However, Joaquin reaches it first and attempts to stop it. Unfortunately, the missile explodes, injuring him and causing him to fall into the sea. American rescue teams immediately rush to save him before he drowns. Meanwhile, President Ross, inside the ship's command room, is speaking with the Japanese president, trying to convince him to stop the war. He insists that he did not order the American planes to attack. However, the Japanese president refuses to believe him, stating that planes cannot fire missiles without direct presidential orders. Suddenly, Ross hears a voice through his earpiece. It's Small's voice. Ross realizes that Small had taken control of the American planes and ordered them to fire on the Japanese planes, intending to spark a war between the two nations. Small tells Ross that the medicine he had been taking didn't cure his heart as he thought, but instead created a dangerous monster inside him, capable of destroying the world. He adds that if Ross stops taking the medication, his heart will fail. Small then tries to provoke Ross into unleashing the monster inside him. Sure enough, Ross's body begins to convulse, as if transforming into someone else. At that moment, his assistant, Tyler, enters and tries to calm him down, thinking he is merely sick. She informs him that Captain America has managed to stop the planes and narrowly avert the war, and urges him to call the Japanese president to negotiate a ceasefire. Upon learning that his plan has failed, Small becomes furious. The next day, Captain America visits the hospital where Joaquin is being treated and finds him connected to life support in critical condition. Captain America feels deep sadness and guilt for not being able to save him from the missile. Meanwhile, the camp commander is in the training unit when he receives a call from his assistant, who informs him that he has investigated Small's case and discovered that the pills Small had been giving to President Ross contained a highly radioactive energy capable of transforming him into a powerful monster resembling the Hulk. The commander is shocked by what he hears and decides to call Captain America to inform him, but Soul appears in front of him, uses hypnosis to control him, and stops his heart. We return to President Ross, who calls his daughter Betty, and for the first time in a long while, she answers. He apologizes for everything and assures her that he has changed and wants to become a better person. Betty forgives him and asks if he is okay, worried about what happened in the Indian Ocean. Ross reassures her and ends the call, preparing to go to a press conference. Taylor and the guards try to shoot him, but his body is unaffected by bullets. His anger grows, and he begins attacking them. Captain America intervenes, throwing his shield at Ross and starting a fight. But he is shocked by Ross's incredible strength, as his attacks have no effect. Military planes arrive and attempt to shoot him down, but to no avail. Ross easily destroys them. Captain America decides to lure Ross away from the White House to avoid civilian casualties. He calls Sophie and asks her to send backup forces to a park on the outskirts of the city. Then he shoots arrows at Ross to provoke him and lead him to the park, and succeeds. In the park, Ross throws a huge tree at Captain America. As he blocks it, Ross lands a powerful punch that sends him flying. The intense battle continues until Ross manages to grab Captain America and break the wing of his flight suit. Despite this, Captain America uses the other wing to stab Ross, causing a massive energy explosion that destroys the entire area. At that moment, Sophie arrives to help Captain America and informs him that reinforcements are very close. Suddenly, they discover that Ross is still alive and even angrier, determined to kill Captain America. Captain America approaches him calmly and tries to soothe him with words, urging him to think about the one he loves most, his daughter Betty. Ross gradually calms down and returns to his human form. At that moment, the police arrive and arrest him. Sophie thanks Captain America for saving the world twice, once by stopping the war between America and Japan, and again by stopping Ross. She then asks him to go to the hospital to treat his wounds, but he refuses, deciding to head straight to the prison to free his trainer, Brand. Captain America succeeds in freeing Brand, then moves to the maximum security prison in the middle of the ocean, where he meets Ross. Ross thanks Captain America for helping him control his anger and surrender at the last moment, and for stepping down from his position. He tells him that he brought his daughter Betty with him. Ross is deeply moved upon seeing his daughter for the first time in a long while, and tells her that he is waiting for the day he gets out of prison so they can go to the park and play together like they used to when she was young. Captain America leaves them to talk and then heads to the hospital to check on Joaquin, feeling immense joy when he finds him conscious and recovering. Captain America promises to repair Joaquin's suit and tells him he plans to assemble a new team of superheroes, making him the first member, just as Joaquin had dreamed. Joaquin thanks him deeply, expressing his gratitude and saying that Captain America has always been his role model and inspiration to become a hero. Captain America thanks Joaquin and leaves the hospital. After some time, Captain America visits Sol in the high-security prison, mocking him for finally being captured despite all the chaos he caused. Sol tells him that he possesses a genius mind in calculations and future predictions, and that he can deduce outcomes accurately through analysis. He says he knew from his calculations that he would lose this battle, which is why he surrendered to the police without resistance, because he is merely a small piece in a much larger war that will break out later between planets. Sol warns that the future will witness the emergence of alien creatures and superheroes from other worlds, and that these beings will be capable of wiping out all the superheroes, including the Avengers. At the end of the meeting, Sol advises Captain America to prepare for a dark future, and thus the movie ends.